Blessings and welcome forward to Reasonings right here at the Tree of Life. I am Jerome Butler. We've been going through a most turbulent set of weeks, and as a result of this turbulent set of weeks and experiences, I thought to myself, why not make our next set of experiences more truly harmonious and relative to our experiences? Now, I have been going through a most, I say, egregious test of my faith. And I would say it has come in perfect alignment with the timing in which we started these productions, right? And the impact of these productions going out there. We have experienced negative ripple effects coming back. But at this point, we are not being disheartened, and we're not going to be so distracted that we cannot continue. But one of the major things I want to say is that is provoking me to go to presenting to you one of the major reasons why we are doing this, or that I am the voice or the face in this platform, as you are staying on the platforms to be informed, and the platforms are Celia Media on Facebook, YouTube and IG. Why I am the voice. I said through several of these videos that it is the calling within me. The Most High has put something upon my heart, upon my experience, and I wish not to see my fellow humans perish as I don't wish to see myself perish, because of a lack of knowledge or for a lack of right arrangement of this knowledge. So I'm going to talk about my personal experience of Christ, my personal testimony. You know, it is wrought with many different experiences, so I apologize to those who might not have been exposed to a kind of information like this, and a kind of information and experience like this coming from an individual. So I first want to apologize if you are somewhat offended or if it kind of shocks you, right? I was born in the mountains of Gordontown, St. Andrew, right? I was born in a situation where my father, my biological father, and my mother broke up very early, right? Very early on as a child, I had memories from, my mother said I walked from almost 8. I walked from almost 8 months old, and I talked before I was a year old, right? I have memories, personal memories from I was like 18 months old, right? So I can have clear, vivid memories from I was creeping, I have memories, right? So I've had a very clairvoyant experience in my younger age, right? But the major thing I recognize with myself is that very early on, probably about age 8, 9, I had a very negative view of God. I said, because I had extraordinary large amounts of information in my head, because they said I spoke perfect English at 2 years old. And they also said that my mother's had some books which was about world history, right? And those were the first books I read, really, right? Even before I could read them, I had these books as books that were important to me. So I grew up, in my first playbooks were books about Rasputin and European history, the Fall of the Tsars and such, and a whole lot of ancient history about Ceylon, the Crimeas and such, right? So I've had a kind of a socialization just in my natural environment. I'm saying that to say this. At 10 years old, I had one of the strangest views of God. I said, God has to come and present himself to me as a living being before I believe in a God. So I had no perception. So I was godless growing up. And why this matters? By 12 years old, I was suicidal. By 12 years old, I was so extrasensory. I picked up all these emotional stuff. I didn't know why I felt the way I felt from people. It's like I go around people and they might speak things to me, but I was afraid to leave their presence, because I know the moment I leave their presence, I feel like they're pulling at me, like pieces of me is being torn apart. I go around people and I feel like my body's been sewn together like pieces of cloth, right? So something was happening to me. I didn't know what it was. My mother took me to every spiritual healer and everybody she could find. She wasn't too much of a Christian or a religious-minded person, so of course she never took me to a church. She took me to all the spiritual healers, right? So I went from bath to barnyard to barnyard to bath. My conditions continued. My intellect and my intelligence grew exponentially. You know, I had the most heinous behavioral system, belief system. I had the weirdest view of everything. I was vast in information and knowledge. As a teenager, I never paid attention. I practically got myself kicked out of school because I sculled my classes and went to the libraries to study. to study all manner of information in all forms of esoterics. I challenged every mind that I thought was important and I thought was smart, because I had this driving feeling in me that there's something in me telling me I was to be something or to do something. But whatever it was, it always brought with it this intense ripping apart of my soul. No amount of girlfriends changed that. No amount of money changed that. As I grew a little older in my early 20s, I said to myself, when I was 18 years old, before I reached to my early 20s, when I was 18 years old, I had a big fight with my mother. And for the first time, before I even get to 18, the Spirit is reminding me to say something about when I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, during the suicidal time, I had a vision one night. I went to my bed and I dreamt I was in this place that was very smelly, like in feces and bad smell, and there was this bench and there was a metal door. Long and short of it, I ran away from home because of all this psychological pressure on my mind. I couldn't hold it together in my community. So my psychological state, voices told me in a bad way one night to just go. So I just decided to run away because I couldn't felt no peace at home. So I ran away from home. So when I ran away from home now, being on the street for 3 months, and then the state came and got me through some intervention, and some people decided to help me because I was very clever at how I was doing it. I wouldn't stay in police stations and do things because I was a pretty intelligent person. So I knew, as a kid, I knew how to go around people, right? So long and short of it is, I was placed into a place of safety, which is called Homestead Place of Safety, and that's up in Stone Hill, St. Andrew. The first night I was placed into that place, my bed was placed in a dormitory, and there was a metal door that was closed off, and I heard someone inside. In the night I couldn't tell what it was or who it was, but in the morning when I woke up, I asked some of my fellow inmates at this place of safety, which they put me for care and protection. No, I asked what was that behind that metal. Them said it's a particular young individual, and them said that he is mentally ill and he messes up himself, right? So they lock him and chain him behind there. And I stayed there until when I cleared out dorm. I make sure I came back in the dorm. At 12 o'clock I came back into the dorm when they would fly up that portion, and I saw that bench inside that dorm, and I saw all the feces on the wall, and I smelled that repugnant smell that I had that vision months before. And I began to understand that something was happening to me in this reality that I couldn't comprehend. So that was when I was 12 years old. So all my teenage year was wrought with these telepathic, these feelings of seeing things before they happen, and when they happen, it just messed up my mind. When I was 18 years old, I had a very bad fight with my mother. And so that Spirit said I was to go to church. So I went to the Adventist church because some friends were inviting me, and for the first time I went and I started hearing about Christ, and in a certain way, even though we had known in certain ways because we had links to the Methodist church and would go sometime. But here's where the relationship started. I spent basically 3 years, I was baptized like 2 times because I kept going back and forth because again, the darkness in the soul was so much. When I was 21, I said I was going to leave church and go on my self journey because I wanted to find Christ for myself. Because when I took communion, I didn't feel like it was really communion. So I went on this journey to find Christ for myself. And can I tell you, this is where this current journey began. There was an explosion in my information. At the same time, a darkness came over me that was unfathomable. I hungered for everything that was lustful and everything that was significant towards making myself seem more powerful. And then one of the worst things happened to me in 2003. I started wandering into a particular association with a particular set of individuals because I wanted now to start to learn sorcery, because what I learned was that a lot of my previous pain and suffering was because of the spells that was being worked on me by a lot of the people in my individual environment who I realized that when you have a spiritual eye and you don't know it, you're actually a threat. People are trying to destroy your light, right, or destroy that single eye of which Christ talks about. So I realized that I was severely affected, and I took the wrong route. I said I was going to get even. So I wanted to start study sorcery. So when I started studying sorcery now, a great attack came upon me and I went into the underworld. I woke up in a haze in my spiritual vision one night, just like I had seen of the previous time. But this time I was in a very dark place. It had a deep, dark brown kind of hue. And the pathways were cut and hewn, you know, but very dark. And sometimes there were sulfur-borne lights, right, that lit up those pathways. In that pathway of the underworld, I saw bodies cocooned, like in a brown sheeting, right, being wrapped and cocooned up against particular rooms. I was also wrapped like that. And death itself, because I had a very important dream. The Spirit said before I go here, I should tell how I entered into the underworld. During that time I was going to the fight with all the sorcery. I had a vision one night. I was back at one of my old workplace and some people came to attack the place. I came up and work at that moment and they started chasing me. Long and short of it, I picked up 3 shots trying to escape from my life. The third shot, before I got the third shot, I settled myself. And the Spirit came over me and said, what have you done to this person? I said, nothing. And I said, why should I be afraid? Life is nothing to me that I should be disattached to it. And I was free, and the third shot finally took up my life, and I died. And that was my entrance into the underworld. So when I got into the underworld now, death came to me, up trying to cocoon my soul now, to put me to rest until the Most High calls us after judgment. Now, when He so pleases. Now, as death began to gather me up, He recognized that my third eye was, my single eye was open. He said to me, oh my God, you're not dead. What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You understand me? And it was the beginning process to return me, right? I said, I want to know. I want to learn. Teach me. Death says, what do you want? Because you're here and you say you don't want to go. What do you want? I said, teach me. Teach me knowledge, information of self, of everything. That has always been my wish ever since I was born and know myself. I just wanted to know. Death said to me, you sure you don't want riches, you don't want wealth, you don't want power? Every man that comes here that has been in the same situation like you, they ask for power. We gave it to them. They asked for secrets of the future and things. And we gave it to them and sent them back. I said, no, I want knowledge. No, I became a spectacle in the underworld. At first I didn't realize I became a spectacle. I became a laughing stock, in that death would bring the other beings of the underworld and ask me the question over and over again. What do you want? I said, I want to learn. Hallelujah, I want to know. Understand me? Till eventually I caught on to hear these beings now. I started to pick them up on my radar and saw that they were ridiculing me. But after ridiculing me for a very long time, they decided that, well, if something is up, this kid really just wants to know. So eventually they started teaching me. And I started learning secrets of death. And one of the first lessons death taught me is that death cannot contain life, because it is life that contains life and death. So death, when it comes upon maybe a physical body appearing like it's dead, and the angel of death comes for it, right? That being cannot stay in the underworld if life is still in that being, if the third eye, if the singular eye is open. And that's what has happened to me. It has happened to others as well too, but that was in my case. So I began to learn a lot of the inner workings of hidden things and hidden knowledge. These things weren't from books I read or from being a part of a large family. That's why I always clearly say I'm not a part of any secret organization, because sometimes people recognize the way I'm speaking and say these are codes I'm speaking, and in these codes I'm either disseminating lies or truth. That's why I wanted to be very clear that this is my testimony, so you can understand why I am saying these things the way that I am saying this, because a lot of people have come through the pathway that I have come through and have chosen to go on certain pathways. I represent no secret organization, no special interest groups. So upon spending 8 years in the underworld, I grew intensely in knowledge. In my physical world, all my mental experiences I forgot. I don't remember girlfriends I've had those times. I don't remember a lot of the physical experiences I was having from 2003 until 2011. I don't remember. Women are showing me pictures of moments of them scantily clad, of me and them in certain moments that I can't remember. Women are telling me of women that have recommended me to them that I can't remember that woman. I can't remember any experience me and her actually shared. And these experiences subsisted from 2003 to 2011. For all this time, from that entrance in 2003 in the underworld, I was there amongst a lot of the dark beings and hear them rumbling. At the time I didn't know what it was. I hear them rumbling of someone coming in the distance, and they were saying, who is he? He always pretends like he's all this mighty and all this powerful. Why should he come here and trouble us? And he can't come here. And then an amazing light, hallelujah, came down into the underworld. And everywhere the light shone, all those venomous beings that had become a part of my reality had to run. All those who stood in power of me, who were educating me, they had to run from this light as it came through into the underworld. And everywhere that this light went, nowhere was that darkness found. Neither could any of those creatures appear into the light. And that light harnessed me and harvested me out of the underworld. And when that light presented itself unto me as Yeshua the Christ, hallelujah, that was when my whole world crashed. Because all that I had before, all the esoterics, all of it came to an end. The Lord showed me healing practices as I was doing those that was taught by the fallen angels. And He began to taught me the right practices towards healing, towards restoration. And He clearly told me about the spiritual warfare that is upon us, and that I was a victim of that spiritual warfare because of the eye that I had opened. That eye that I've had open is a gift of the Most High God. And through that eye that I've had open is why I have suffered, and is why many of you are suffering. Because you are aware that there is an exosensory perceptive reality going around us. That something is somewhat jamming you from it. And you are so afraid to hear the internal voice. You have been convinced you're schizophrenic, or it's a schizophrenic action. Yet still in deep psychology, people have postulated that you can hear the internal voice. When the voice of God came clear to me, it was told. At first God spoke to me in signs upon my awakening. He always came in signs. When I asked a question, sign or a Bible passage, and there was an answer. Then He manifested Himself through a particular woman who began to show me the healing rites and the healing practices to get the bad enemies off of me, to get the fallen angels off of me, the unclean spirit, the spirit of the dead off of me, to clean out the filth of the underworld that I had taken unto myself, the false doctrines, the false knowledge out of myself. You understand me? And begin to clean and purge my existence. Right? So I began now on the path now to awakening. So one day I said to her, the Most High is always talking through you, and I hear that we should have personal relationship. Why am I not having personal relationship? She said, it took a little while, but then the Father answered and said to her, through her to me, many times I've been talking to you, Jerome, but you're not patient enough to listen, to understand, or to differentiate. It went on for a while, I was trying to get into the right state of mind, till one day I asked a question and I got an answer. The answer came clearly. That current cough is currently a blockage now in my vocal chakra. This arises every time the truth begins to be spoken. So that is what you call a blockage. So, Most High spoke to me. This time I asked and I got the answer. I asked Him, why can't I hear you? And I heard clearly, He said, Jerome, I've been speaking to you all the time, but your confusion is mistaking your voice from my voice, because I speak through your voice. But it's when the mind is singular, then the first person, the ego self, falls away. And then you hear the word. So the inner voice is my own voice. And that's the voice the Most High speaks to me in. No aberrant wayward voices, but my own voice. And the Most High made that very clear. So sometimes through my very speech, I realize a message is coming for me, the individual, and not for someone outside, though it's coming through me. And people might say, oh my God, but you're the one that's saying it. Yes, but I go by the testimony. His word says, open thy mouth, and I fill it with words. Now clearly when I postulate on these things, you don't see me with a script, because I have no script. This is not self-rehearsed. This is not something I go and I think about and then I come and I say, okay, I'm going to postulate this. this isn't pre-rehearsed. So I just want to say that all this suffering that has brought me to that awakening, and then Christ begin to show me now through my personal experience now, because I begin to hear the voice now, listening to the usherings, the movements of thought now, I slowly start begin to see some changes in my behavior and my personality. Though I go back to some of the similar rituals, and here come the blocking spirit again. Though I've gone through some of these, I return to that cycle. Sometimes I go back through the lesser self again into a denser reality. But the difference is my awakening is clear, and I saw Christ the light, and the light did dwell amongst the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. But I chose to go after the light, to take up his cross and follow him. And I'm taking up mine and I'm following Christ. So I know of the battles and the struggles that come with this journey. I'm sharing my journey with you to let you know that this is a genuine warfare that's going on here for the souls, minds and bodies of the living being. Let not the highly intellectual or highly metaphorical or metaphysical lead you astray. Seek ye first the kingdom of the Most High God and all of his righteousness, and all shall be added unto. To the chakra of the heart, seek that higher connection. Christ is speaking through the heart chakra to awake all the intellect and bring it into the domain of agape love. Glory be unto Yahweh, Yeshua, divine Christ, sacred creator. I give thanks for the emperor and the empress, our ancestors, our divine guardians, Elisha and Elijah, John the Baptist. I give thanks for thy holy testimonies. I'm reminding you that you're a gift unto yourself, unto the living cosmos. Awake the gift of Christ in you, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Let the light of Christ, the light of Saba, be your guiding light. Continue to let that light shine.